Hello and welcome to this FAQ video by Proposals for NGOs. This is a live streaming where we answer all your questions about fundraising that we have collected throughout the last 2 weeks. In the beginning, I just want to say a couple of words about myself. My name is Eva Wieners. I'm from Germany, and I have worked with Proposals for NGOs throughout the last 2 years since we started. I have lived and worked in Asia and South America in the last 10 years, and I've just recently finished my PhD with Hamburg University in Geography and Development Issues. So yeah, I've been fundraising for the last 10 years basically, and I've mainly worked with small NGOs. And yeah, today I'm here to answer all your questions. Proposals for NGOs is an online-based company. We have a website and an online school, and our mission is basically to teach grassroots NGOs and people who want to know about fundraising and proposal writing, how to do it. So throughout the last 2 weeks, we have collected your questions. We had asked you to send some in, and many of you did. If you want to see your question in one of these videos in the future, just make sure you follow us on Facebook, you subscribe to our newsletter, and then you will see our calls for questions, and you can be part of this and also submit your questions, and I will answer them in one of these videos. We do these once every month or sometimes every second month. So yeah, just make sure to watch out for the calls for questions and submit, and then we will answer your question in the next video. So let's get started right away. The first question we received from Preeti in Nepal was, what is the sustainability plan? And with this question, I imagine that Preeti is referring to one of the sections in a proposal, in the guidelines that you normally have to fill out when you get a pre-prepared form by a donor. Normally one of the last sections is a question for the sustainability plan. And this is actually a very important section. I personally believe it's one of the most important sections because this is where you can really distinguish yourself and your proposal from other NGOs, because this is a section that many times is neglected. It's one of the last things. Many times it's just filled out last minute and not much thought put into it, and I think that's a big mistake, because you probably know that sustainability, the word sustainability, is everywhere these days. Now everybody's talking about sustainability, about the issues connected to it. And it is a very important topic. It is very important, though, to understand that in this section of the proposal, the sustainability plan is not only referring to the environmental sustainability, which is the thing that people on the news are talking about right now. Right now, everybody's talking about climate change, how to deal with it, how to combat it, how to avoid those 2 degrees of temperature rise, etc. That is not the only thing that is meant by sustainability in a project proposal. Of course, it is important that you keep these issues in mind. You should not propose to open a coal plant or something like that. But when the donor asks you for your sustainability plan, normally they are referring to the project sustainability, which is a little bit different, and it's important to understand this distinction. So the project sustainability basically means how will you sustain your project in the environment that you work in. The term sustainability in general just means to manage something in a way that it works now and will also work in the future, basically. So if you put this on resources, or if you apply this concept to resources, which is the most common used way, it's that we use the resources that that are available to us in a way that our children, our grandchildren, can still use them. And if you look at it from the project perspective, it means that you design your project in a way that it will be sustained in the long term, that you're not only doing something very short term that will be up for 5 years, 3 years, and then it's finished. That's not what the donors want to see. They want to see something, they want to invest their money into something that will be there in the long term, and that will be a success story in the long term. So you have to think about this. How can you do this? There's three ways or three parts of project sustainability that you should look into. One is the financial sustainability, the other is organizational sustainability, and the third one is the community sustainability. All three are very important. Sometimes people tend to only look at financial sustainability, and again, I think that is a mistake because the three aspects are important. But financial sustainability basically means the ability of your project to sustain itself financially in the long term. So what will happen once the donor funding runs out? If you get a grant, what will happen once the grant is finished? Will you just stop working, or do you have a concept or an idea about how to deal with things in the future? So for example, do you want to apply for more grants after this first one runs out? Or do you have the plan to apply for government funding? Will you make your own money? Will you start a social enterprise? Can you sustain your project or you sustain your work with membership fees or any other concept? This is something you should think about from the very beginning, because all these things should be reflected throughout your entire proposal. For example, if you say in your sustainability plan, we will sustain our project by forming a social enterprise and selling our produce. But if this is none of your activities, if it doesn't reflect throughout your proposal that you want to start this social enterprise, then it's like a shallow. It's like a shell only. The donor will see right through you and see that this is not a true plan. This is just something you put on paper. So you should actually think about these things at the very beginning, and then also think about how you can reflect your ideas throughout your proposal. What do you have to do in your activities to be able to achieve what you promise in your sustainability plan? So, like I said, if you want to form a social enterprise, make this part of your activities. If you want to rely on membership fees, then make sure that you have a concept on how to attract members and that this is reflected in your activities. So this is the financial sustainability. Sometimes NGOs just put in there, we will apply for more grants, and that's not a very sustainable concept. No, it's something that works in the short term, but you should not design a project that is always going to be reliant on outside funding. You should always think about how can this work in the future. There's some tasks that are very difficult to self-finance, like a hospital, for example, or even a school. But normally there should be government funding that you can access, and you should put these things into consideration, take these things into consideration and think of how you can strategically use them to finance your project in the long term. Then there's community sustainability, which is also a very important component, because if the community you're working with is not supporting your project and is not on board with it, then the project will just stop once the funding runs out. And we've seen many, many examples of that, where outsiders came into a community and decided, this is a great spot to plant maize or to make to dig a ditch or something, and it was not a great idea because the community was not on board with it, and once the support ran out, the project was finished. And donors do not want that. They want to make sure that their investment they're making in your project is going to have a long-term effect. So make sure that the community is on your side and that you can show how the community is going to support and sustain the project. For example, forming a local NGO, a local organization, working closely with existing organizations, taking in data from the community about what they want and including them into every single step of your project, from the planning to the implementation, is a good way to ensure community sustainability. But again, here you can see this is something that needs to be reflected throughout your proposal. You cannot say in the end, we ensure community sustainability by consulting with the community at every stage, but then this is not reflected throughout your proposal and throughout your activities. So think about this first and then make sure that it is everywhere in your proposal. And the last component of project sustainability is the organizational sustainability. And that just means how can you guarantee that your organization will be there in the future and will be a good and reliant partner? Because, again, donors, they don't want to give you some money and then never hear from it again. They want to have a lasting impact. And a lasting impact is also connected to your organization being there as a long-term partner. So you have to show how your organization will be sustained. This could be through membership fees, could be through government support, donations, whatever. But you have to have an idea of how this will work. And you should be able to show it in your sustainability plan. But again, it should be reflected throughout your proposal. So this is basically what donors are referring to when they ask you for the sustainability plan. In very short proposals, there's not much space there. So you should tell them what you thought about. But again, like I said before many times, if your plans for ensuring sustainability of your project are reflected throughout your proposal, you don't have to make a huge sustainability plan. You don't have to tell the donor again and again, because they will see that you thought about this and that this is weaved into your proposal. If it's just like an add-on in the end, then it will not help you a lot. So think about these issues before you start writing your proposal, and think about what they will affect, what changes you might have to make in your proposal, and then if it's reflected in there, you just have to point out your most important selling points again in the sustainability plan. In larger proposals, sometimes you have space to elaborate more, and then you can also explain in detail what you were thinking about and what your ideas for your project sustainability are. And again, the sustainability plan, the project proposal, refers to project sustainability. Issues of environmental sustainability are also very important, because no donor will fund a project anymore that is not environmentally sustainable. So you think about these things as well, but normally the donor does not want to see explanations about environmental sustainability in detail in the sustainability plan. That refers to the project sustainability. Okay, Preeti, I hope this answered your question. We also have many great articles on our homepage, proposals4ngos.com, about project sustainability that can give you some more background information. And in the next year, we will also have an online course on project sustainability. So then you can even learn in a way more interactive way about project sustainability. Okay, let's move to the next question. From Susan from South Africa, what is core cost? That's also something referred in guidelines many times. Core cost refers basically to all kinds of costs that occur in a project but are not directly project related. So basically cost or money that you need to sustain your organization. For example, rent or insurance costs or stuff like that, things you need to run your organization, and then in the end also need to run your project, because without your organizational infrastructure you cannot run your project, but it is not directly project related. For example, many times an accountant or a secretary are people on staff that are not directly working in the project. They are still working for the organization, and it's important to be able to function as an organization, to have these people, to have this infrastructure, but it is not directly project related. For donors, it's important to make sure that you understand this distinction, because of course if they give you a grant, they want to give you a grant for the project. They do understand that there is some cost that is not directly project related but still important, and normally they are willing to cover some of the cost as well. Sometimes they even give you a percentage, like 15, 20, sometimes even 30% core cost is allowed. Sometimes it's not allowed at all. Then you can only cover project costs with grants from specific donors, and you have to get money for your core cost from somewhere else. But it is important to make this distinction and to be clear about it. So you have to look carefully at all your employees. Are they really working for the project? Are they working more for the organization? Sometimes you can say it's 50-50. For example, if an accountant works 50% of her or his time in a project and 50% for another project, then you can only count 50% of her or his salary towards the project cost. The other 50% then would be core cost or cost for a different project. With rent, it's the same. If you rent an office and all your stuff is working there, then that's core cost. If you rent a room to specifically only give the training that you want to give within your project, that could count towards the project cost again. But you have to be very specific and make the distinction there, because the donors want to see that you understand the difference and that you don't make them pay for your organization. Be honest as well, because donors know that there will be core costs. Core cost per se is nothing bad, because you need to have the infrastructure at the office to be professional, and that's what they want to see. So they don't want you to hide everything and act like you don't have core cost. After a specific size of NGO, it's not possible to work without that infrastructure anymore. So they know it is there. They just want to know that you understand the difference and that you're not trying to hide something, some people, some staff members, or some rooms that you're renting, hiding them in the project cost. So make the distinction, make sure you understand how much core cost you can include in specific proposals, and then you can write it very clearly in the budget, which type of cost belongs to which type of accounting. I hope that answered your question, Susan. We have an online course about writing the proposal, and in this course we also talk a little bit more about the different kinds of costs that you can include in a budget and how you can do that. So I would like to refer you to that course as well. It's called Writing a Winning Proposal, and like I said, it also talks a lot about the budget and the different kinds of costs, because there's other kinds of costs as well that you can include or you cannot include in the budget. Okay, moving to the next question. This is a question that we actually get many times from Sajana in India. How to find good donors. I understand that that's the main challenge, or a very big challenge for most of you out there, because it can be very overwhelming and very difficult. On the one hand, today there's more donors than ever. There's more foundations than ever before. On the other hand, all this information can be very overwhelming. It can be very difficult to find out which one is a good fit for you, because if you don't find that perfect fit, it's very difficult to get funding, because even if your proposal is perfect, if you send it to the wrong donor, you will never get funding. So you have to make that conscious decision to invest some time and sometimes even some money to do good donor research and to find the perfect fit, because only then you will have a chance to get a grant. And again, I know that sometimes it might feel like you shouldn't invest in this part of the fundraising journey because it's in the very beginning, but this is where you kind of decide if you're going anywhere. Because many times people ask us, so can we hire a consultant to write a proposal? And of course you can. And people are happy to invest money in this part of the fundraising journey. But if you don't know where to send that perfect proposal that the consultant maybe has created, maybe not, but maybe they are doing their work very good, and they write a perfect proposal for you, but if you don't know where to send that proposal, then all this investment doesn't make sense. So in this very first step, where you find a good donor, there's some tools that you can use that help you. There's some databases. Very soon we will also open our own database with foundations, where all this information that you have to comb through the web to find is consolidated to one spot. So you can easily find donors that tick all your boxes, that fund in your area, in your country, maybe in your region, that your values are aligned with, etc. In general, it is very important to spend time here and to spend time researching. A very good way, if you don't have access to one of these databases, if you want to do it yourself, a good way to find donors is to just look at your peers, look at your partners, look at NGOs that work in the same sector in the same country. Because if they got funded by a foundation or by a partner, maybe they are willing to fund you as well if you do similar work. Normally they display this information on their website. So going through their website, normally there's a section that says supporters. And in this section, you can find very good information about who might be willing to fund the issue you're working on, the region you're working in. This is one very good way to find potential donors. Another way is just Google. It sounds very basic, but if you play around a little bit with the keywords, you already come up with a lot. So if you, for example, if you're working in a sanitation project in India, where Sajana is from, you could just put in sanitation India and maybe the district you're working in, and things will pop up. Like I said, other foundations or other NGOs that work in the area will pop up. Then you can look if they have specific supporters, if you can find who gave them money. Sometimes you will even find open calls. Just toy around a little bit with the keywords. Now, don't just use the same, but then use wash, maybe water and sanitation, hygiene, just different words, and see what comes up. And this way you can already find a good list of donors. Then there's some free databases that you can use. They're different for every country, but there's many free resources out there as well. It's also important to then arrange your donor research in a way that is accessible, because if you just do research and just write something down here, write something down there, it will not help you in the long run. We always recommend to make an Excel file with all the consolidated information, and this way you can work through it, or your colleagues can also work with the list, and you make sure that you don't do double work, that you can keep track with deadlines, and that you don't miss any opportunities. We have a very good online course that is just dealing with donor research. So yeah, if you're interested in this topic, if you feel like you had problems and issues finding good donors in the past, this course will be perfect for you, because we go through all the ways you can find donors. We give you links to the free resources, the free databases that are out there. We give you a template to organize your donor research. So please check out the curriculum on our online school page, and you will find a lot of important information there. I believe that this is one of the most important steps of the fundraising cycle, because everything you do after can be perfect, but if you made a mistake in this step, you will never be successful. You have to find the right fit. You have to find the perfect donor for your project. Otherwise, you will just not get the money, no matter how hard you work. So it is very important to invest time, and maybe even be willing to invest some money to learn about donor research and to get access to all these resources. Okay, Sajana, I hope this answered your question. And we also have another free webinar about donor research, I just remembered, on our YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. You're watching this on YouTube right now, so you're already there. You just have to click the subscribe button, and you will see that we have one webinar about donor research up here, and you can watch it as well, and you will get a lot of information in this webinar. Okay, moving to the next question from Joseph from Kenya. The donor asks us to find a partner. Is a partnership a good idea? This is a very good question, because when I've been working with NGOs for the last 10 years, and our colleagues have more experience even. They've worked for 20, 25 years, and the thing we came away with, or the lesson learned basically, is that partnerships and networks are the most important thing you can base your work on. I know that sometimes people feel like, I have some knowledge, I know about this donor, I know about my project, I should keep this to myself, because this will make the distinction, this will make me special. But I think it's actually the opposite. Partnerships and sharing only enhances knowledge and enhances experience, and also enhances your chances of success in the long run. So I know that many NGOs are very hesitant to enter a partnership, because they feel like, we know this community best, we know what we're doing, we want to do this independently, we don't want to have to rely on someone else, and we don't want to share our resources. But keep in mind that sharing resources means to be more productive, to be more effective. So entering a partnership is actually a very good idea. And many donors ask ask you to apply for grants in partnerships, in consortiums, or in any kind of cooperation with other organizations, because they know that you can share specific resources and be more effective. You can share experiences. You don't have to make the same mistake as the next NGO, and the next NGO doesn't have to make the same mistake that you maybe made in the beginning. You can share your experiences and move forward together. So many times the donors ask to go to apply together with a bigger NGO, smaller NGO, different partners. And this is actually a very good thing, because this way you make sure that the maximum amount of experience and the maximum amount of resources go towards the project. There's some rules for how to approach this, though, because a partnership, I think a partnership is a very good thing. Networking is a great thing. Making sure others know you, you know others, and sharing your resources is great, but you should put down some ground rules to make sure that there's no misconceptions, no misunderstandings, that everybody knows their role. So I think when you enter a partnership, you should always sit down and make a catalog of rules, make a contract maybe that really lines out the roles of the partners, what they have to do, timelines, responsibilities, also money, how will the money be divided, etc., so that everybody knows they're on the same page and that there's no misconceptions. So think about what you think you can give in a partnership with another NGO, another organization, what you think you need, what you want, and formulate this very clearly so that you know what to expect and that your potential partners also know what to expect. And put it in writing, because talking is great, but then maybe you will remember it differently in a year than the people you talked with. So put it in writing, sign it, and then you have a good document to base your partnership on. This might sound a bit formal, but in a work environment it is good to be formal, and it's good to have the things formalized and to have something that you can base your work on without running the risk to have misunderstandings, especially when money is involved. It's always better to have everything lined out on paper. But in general, I think looking for partners, even if the donor doesn't ask you to, is a good thing, because maybe you will come into the situation at some point that you need to apply somewhere with more experience, and then your partner has more experience, or with specific kinds of documents that you don't have, or a specific number of beneficiaries, a specific number of members, whatever. A partnership can always be helpful. And if you've already established yourself in your community as a good and reliable partner, it will also be much more easy for you to find someone when you need someone in a situation where you need support. So in general, I think it's always good to keep the eyes open for potential partners in your community, in your country, in the area of work that you're doing, and to consistently exchange experiences and exchange the things you know and network, because this way your donor research, your donor networking, everything will be easier if you've already established a great network in your field. Then you will know people, people to ask if you need help, but people will also know you, and you're not a newcomer anymore. So finding partners and networking is a very important step in the fundraising cycle as well. Okay, and I think we have one last question that we will answer today from Shamista in Nepal. So she asked, what's the difference between an activity and a strategy? So this is a very important distinction. The vocabulary we use in proposal writing can be a little bit confusing sometimes, because it is vocabulary that is used in daily life as well. It's words that we use in other circumstances as well, but when we talk about them in the context of proposal writing, they have a very specific meaning, and it is also very important that you know this meaning and that you exactly describe what the donor wants to read when they ask for a specific thing. There's other words that have a little bit of a different meaning in common life, but here the question is for the activity and the strategy. And I see this confused many times also with the word objective in proposals, but that's not good because it shows the donor that you didn't really understand what they were asking for in this section. So an activity is the smallest, the most broken down part of your proposal, basically. It explains in most detail what you want to do in your project. It's the most practical, hands down thing that you describe in your proposal. A strategy is a layer above that. It describes how you approach an issue and how you want to solve it. It's not as precise, and it doesn't describe in detail exactly what you want to do. It basically describes your approach of how you want to do, how you want to solve the project, the problem. So, for example, a strategy, if you're working in the field of women's empowerment, could be to do public outreach, to make an awareness campaign on issues of gender discrimination, or a strategy could be to educate girls to be leaders. This is how you want to approach this problem, how you want to solve it. What is your strategy to solve it? It doesn't describe the activities. That's the next step. Under a strategy, you have different activities, and those are the very specific tasks you will do. For example, if your strategy is to have an awareness campaign about women's issues in the community, your activities would be a workshop, going into the school, working with students, would be a presentation at the school, a presentation in the women's group, or a presentation in the cooperative, whatever. The very specific things that you do to achieve what you want, the goal that you have with your project. Those are activities. The strategy is one layer above. Activities should also be very easily measurable, because activities will serve you as indicators of your project success. So you should be able to count easily what you do with your activities. For example, if your activity is to conduct a training, you can count how many people attended the training, how many people got certification from your training, whatever. It should be easily measurable, because if you have activities that are very flowery and that you can't measure, it will be very difficult for you to do any monitoring and evaluation in the end. And when you read the activities, you should also be able to understand the project. It's a very hands-down description of what you want to do in your project. So they should be very clear and very broken up. It's also important that you assign the correct activities to your strategy. So you can have several strategies in your project, several ways you want to achieve your goal, and the activities have to be aligned under these strategies. So, for example, if you have talking about women's empowerment, if one of your strategies is to raise awareness within the parents, and one of your strategies is to create educate girls to be women leaders, and your activity, for example, the activity making a workshop with parents would of course belong to the strategy creating awareness, and not to the strategy creating educating girls to be leaders. So you have to be careful to assign the activities that you want to do to the correct strategies, so that the donor can just read through your proposal and understand clearly, okay, they have 3 different strategies to achieve their goal, and they will implement these and these and these activities to achieve the strategies and to fulfill their strategies, and they have to be correctly assigned. This is a distinction that is very important. We have a lot of information about this on our homepage, Proposals for NGOs, as well. Articles about all these different definitions and what they mean and what donors want to see in these sections of the proposal. We also have an online course that I referred to before about proposal writing that goes into a lot of detail about these terms and makes sure that you really understand the differences in the terms and what goes where in a proposal, because it is very important that it's not confused. And I've worked as an evaluator I read many proposals, and I see this confused all the time, that people put the wrong thing in the wrong part of the proposal, and that's not good, because donors want to see that you really understand your own project, and you understand how you should present it to the donor when they ask for specific things. So it's very important you understand these distinctions. It's a very good question. But if you're not 100% clear yet, you should probably read up a little bit more on it, and maybe study in one of our online courses that deals exactly with these definitions. Okay, so I think these are all the questions for today that we collected. Like I said, if you want to read your question here next time, just make sure you follow us on Facebook, you read our blog on proposals4ngos.com, you subscribe to our newsletter, because this is where we publish the calls for questions, and then you can just submit your question, and we'll try to include them in the next video that we make next month. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like I said, there's more resources here. We have many free webinars that we recorded that are available here, and you will also receive the notifications once we upload something new or once we go live. Every month we also have one free webinar where we accept questions in the live video. So you should also try to attend one of those. If you have a really urgent question that you want to ask me or one of our instructors, and they are very interesting topics as well. In the past, we've done webinars on donor research, on how to fundraise when your NGO is new, on proposal writing, etc. Now, in the end, I just want to share some information with you about our online school. So we've opened the Proposals for NGO online school, and we have more than 15 courses that are ranging from $20 to $199. The cheaper courses are basic and explain basic concepts to you, which are also very important to get started. And the most expensive course with $199 is our flagship course. It's a 5-module course over 5 weeks that teaches you the entire process of fundraising, from developing a strategy, over donor research, donor networking, writing the proposal, understanding guidelines, etc. So it's the entire process, and it will help you to lift your fundraising to another level. We also have some more technical courses, but I will describe the curriculum of each of them later. We also have free courses, free online courses on our website, so go check them out. If you're not sure yet, then just sign up for one of the free ones and you will see what we do and how we do it, and if you like it, if it teaches you something. Our instructors are very experienced, with decades of experience in the fundraising field and millions of dollars raised. So a couple of courses are done by me. Other courses are done by Eric or Christopher or Janet, and they've all worked in this field for a very long time and raised millions of dollars from different foundations and different agencies, and they've worked all over the world. And the good thing is that they have all this inside knowledge, because we have all applied. Most of us have worked as evaluators at some point, so we know the inside scoop. We can share with you all the tips and tricks that will make your proposals more successful. The courses are completely self-directed, so you decide when you start and finish. We don't set a date for you. You can just sign up, and when you have some free time, you start a lecture, you can go through with it, or you can just go back to it later, and you can always start again. It's no end date. You have lifelong access, so you can just do it on your own time. And I really like this about online courses, because we all have a busy schedule, and sometimes it's difficult to plan when we have time, but this way you can just decide for yourself and just go along with it as it fits your own schedule. When you finish, you will get a certificate of completion that you can use for your own papers, you can use for job applications, etc. And we are also an approved provider for continuing education and fundraising. So if you participate in one of our courses and receive the certificate, you can apply this for points in the CFRE International Application for initial certification or recertification. So if you want to be a certified fundraiser by CFRE, you can use our courses, and they count as points towards your certification. The points are between 1 and 5 or 6 for our courses, so it's quite a bit that you can do towards your certification with this. Our online courses consist of videos. Here we have a screenshot of Eric doing one of his videos. How do I organize my donor research? So we have our instructors talking, depending a little bit on the course, between 30 minutes and sometimes even much longer. 1 hour videos, 1.5 hour videos, where they explain face to face the most important aspects of the topic you signed up for. Then we have lectures where you read through material. We have quizzes that you have to pass. So you have to pass at the end with at least 80% to receive your certificate. And we have download materials. So in some courses we have cheat sheets that consolidate the most important information, so you can have it at a glance. You can see at a glance what the module was about. We have resource guides. Sometimes we have ebooks as download material that you can just keep for yourself and work with. In our flagship course, we even have a Facebook group where you can sign up, and we have very livid discussions about fundraising topics and the course, but also other things from the work experiences from our students. This is just an example of a couple of the courses we have that I've referenced throughout this video as well. So we have one course about developing a fundraising strategy, donor networking, donor research, eligibility, and writing a winning proposal. Each of these courses are cost $50 at the moment, but if you sign up for our newsletter, you can also get a coupon. If you follow us on our platforms, you will see that many times we have special offers for specific courses. So yeah, just make sure you sign up and you will get notified of all these offers. And this is a list of most of the courses we have in our online school. We always add something on a very constant basis. So, for example, in this list, the newest course is missing, I just realized. So we just published a course on how to fund projects in humanitarian situations, so after disasters. And that could be very interesting for many of you because it's a very different process of applying for funding. And it's very important that you understand how you can access this funding. But to start with the top, so we have our flagship course, 5 obstacles on your way to fundraising success. That's the whole process. Then we have a free course, how to find 50 great donors in 10 minutes. So you can just sign up for free and see what we do and how it's organized. Then we have a course, how to raise funds from European foundations, because they are very different from, for example, American foundations. The fundraising strategy, networking, research, eligibility, and writing a proposal, the ones that we've talked about before. Then we have the more technical ones, how to write a concept note for the European Commission by Eric, who has fundraised millions from the European Commission, so he has real inside knowledge on how to be successful there. Then we have a course about how to fundraise from Gulf donors. They are very unconventional donors and information is very hard to come by, but we have our instructor Christopher, who has worked with them for the last years and has a lot of knowledge about how to approach them and how to be successful with them. Then we have a course about how to fundraise from USAID and how to fundraise when your NGO is brand new, because it's also a different approach that you have to take when you just started your work. And like I said, the last one, the newest one is missing, and it is about how to fundraise in humanitarian situations, which is a different approach, but important to understand. And there's a lot of things you can do to actually prepare for potential disaster. So if you're working and living in an at-risk country, I would really recommend you take this course and prepare your organization for the potential catastrophes, potential natural disasters, whatever is the risk in your country. Okay, so we're coming to the end of this webinar. Thank you very much for attending. I hope to see you in one of our courses or maybe in the next webinar. I will just repeat again, please sign up for our newsletter, follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel, because that way you will not miss any of the information we share here. You will not miss the next free webinar and the many offers we have for our courses. We will share a link to our online school in the comments down below, and to our website as well. And I hope to see you all again. I hope you enjoyed this webinar, and I hope this is helpful for you to lift your fundraising to the next level. Thank you very much, and see you soon.